Alright, for anybody who's watching this right now on YouTube, we are currently off this week from Twitch, and me and Mars decide to make a filler episode in which we go into further detail about the Levos Major incident. And that's essentially what this episode's going to be. It's a little bit different, but we hope you like it. Anyway, starting off, Sinead is in the midst of a dream. The realm around her is far more abstract than basically any other dream she tends to have. The world is warped and twisted in a way that feels like there's no ceiling or no floor, but these tunnels that she's seems to be crawling through, or just wandering within, they seem to go on forever, and it's like the world's made of this sort of fluid. Everything is without color. It's very black and white and dim, like you're deep underground and just shining a few flashlights around here and there to try and see anything. As you're just kind of wandering, Sinead, eventually you come across what seems to be this almost humanoid, foggy entity. What would you like to do?
This place. What is it?
What is to come is already planned. You made it thus. Thus is the law. The entity seems to speak without vocal cords.
What are you?
I am what is, what isn't, and what will be. I'm the energy that will always be. It doesn't seem to move at all as it says these things.
She is. Puzzled by this and stares back at the entity. What do you mean by this?
You will see in due time.
She takes a close look at the figure, and just as all the nights that she's had this dream. Scramblers.
And then the dream seems to just kind of come to an end. As a certain individual is standing within Sinead's office. The name Levos Major is his name, and he's turning through the pages of a journal left out on her desk. And what he was reading was the inscription of what we all just witnessed. Something about a world with no ceiling or floor, infinite hallways, and abstract entities within it. What could this all mean to him? He's turning another page, using Mage Hand to reach
You.
over the desk and see it. Oh.
What are you doing?
Oh. Miss Sinead, I was looking for you. He quickly uses Mage Hand to gently close the book with his back turned to her, with his hands at his side, and slowly turns, being sure to keep himself between the book and Sinead. I was, looking to get these papers signed for my next experiment. He holds up a paper and pen.
Going to use some of the energy.
Yes, and we must get approval for these things since, well, this is going to require a fairly large amount of it compared to other experiments that we've done. So, must do the paperwork.
Remind me of your name.
It's Levos Major, ma'am.
Stares at him. For a second I am just going to call you Professor.
He looks to the side and kind of adjusts his collar, shoulders a little bit, and just goes, "Thank you, ma'am. So, if it wouldn't be too much to ask, could I have you sign these papers now, or would you like a chance to read over them?"
Very well, I will sign them.
Ah, thank you so much. He reaches out the pen and paper to you.
She just sims the document and then gives a quick sign.
When you skim the document, it looks like it's got some diagram about some machine with a stone in the center. Looks like a diamond. Has something to do with like lensing light, and it needs a lot of energy to like crack through the diamond. It doesn't really seem all that important, but he's done a good job with his experiment, so he's probably onto something. Ah, thank you, Miss Sinead. Well, I will be on my way now.
All right, Professor, just don't let us down.
Of course, Miss Sinead. I'll go file these documents with the archivist and, well, get started immediately. Have a wonderful day.
Perfect, you as well.
He goes over to the door and quickly opens it and begins to shut it behind him and kind of like gently closes it to not be rude. All right, step 1 complete. One step closer. Levos quickly scurries down the halls and finds his way to the archivist, who he then simply just turns in his papers to, and they send approval down to the mechanics to allow for some of the resurgent energy to be sent to his laboratory. Then, when he reaches it, he looks over this nice shimmering stone that's been placed inside this sort of like 2 needles are holding it together, and there's a large upper part and large lower part that are kind of circular that are suspending this. And it looks like it's meant to lend something into this stone, but it's not particularly clear what its purpose is. Sort of rubs a finger across it to get a little bit of dust off. Oh, at last. Now, based on what I read, it should mean that there is something inside the parabola. There's something that I can target differently. The door is kicked open. Standard protocol for, Kolvar enters the room, which he doesn't tend to enter this room particularly subtly. It's just one of his lessers, so he'll enter wherever he wants. Levos. Oh, what are you up to now? You're alone in the experimenting in here? Oh, Kolvar. Actually, he rushes over to the door behind Kolvar and quickly shuts and locks it. I'm glad you're here. You see, I'm about to test out something new, which is going to require more resurgent energy than would usually be necessary. And I think I might have just found a breakthrough. Care to explain, Levos? This is just another one of your lensing experiments. The crystal there, correct? Well, to a degree. Recently I was wondering what might happen if instead of focusing just one wavelength into the crystal, we pumped it full of every wavelength. Well, that would usually just destroy the crystals. It's too much energy for them to bear. Exactly. However, I think I might be onto something a little different this time. But it might be simpler if I just show you. Just stay there while I get things adjusted. Alright? Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. Cora leans against the wall and watches as Levos scurries over to one of the instruments alongside the contraption he's working with, making some adjustments, and things seem to be fine. Nothing's particularly out of the ordinary, no big changes are made, but Levos looks quite excited, and Kovar has taken note that this seems to be a strange amount of excitement for what shouldn't really be too much progress. He's just about to blast a crystal and probably just break it. Levos takes a seat inside the contraption and holds his eye up against a lens nearby it. All right, Kolvar, could you do the honors and flip the power switch for me? Oh, sure. Just a moment. He walks over nearby to the adjacent wall and prepares his hand on the switch. All right, Levos, hope you enjoy being blind in one eye for about 2 days, but here goes nothing. Power in 3, 2, 1, go. He flips the switch up on the wall, and immediately a very bright light emanates from the crystal, and it seems like it's about to just shatter, but as Kovar is looking on, the light doesn't reach a breaking point where the crystal shatters. It starts to kind of warp and wave in this strange way and become calmer, and suddenly the light just seems to vanish from it, as it just takes on this dark, humming hue. Levos, at this point, is convulsing in that chair as he's looking through this crystal. And on the inside of Levos' mind is he's looking at the parabola right now, and he's looking into what seems to be what he heard described in the dream inside of Sinead's journal. This world has very little definite shape, and it's so filled with chaotic black and white blips of energy rather than actual physical shape. And as he's looking around inside of all of this, he sees a figure coming up, and it seems familiar, like something he's seen before. And it begins to speak in almost a familiar voice.
Faster.
What is this?
Professor, I have seen that you have intruded on my realm.
But, Miss Sinead? I was merely... Your journal, it was just... Well, it was just out on your desk.
I am the tribunal.
The tribunal? What on earth is that?
I am what was and is to come.
What was? What is... I don't understand.
You are not supposed to be here, Professor.
Be here? What is this place? Let me out. Kolvar, get me out of this machine immediately. Please. Can you hear me?
This is the parabola.
No. I need to get out. I need to get out right now.
This is both non-existence and existence.
But how? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, my head. This hurts like the devil.
Nothing makes sense here.
And then Kolvar kind of like sees him.
This is chaos.
Kolvar sees Levos convulsing in the chair and starts trying to yank him out, and hears Levos start to say something like, "Chaos? What? This? I don't understand." And then Kolvar finally managed to yank him out of the chair and throw him onto the floor. And the machine seems to have guzzled an incredible amount of resurgent energy and sent a large shock through the whole building, whereas the crystal is still left with a hole punched through the center with this very odd aura about it. And so Kolvar speaks to him. Levos, do you mind explaining to me what that was? He, on the ground, slowly reaches for the glasses that had fallen off his face and puts them back on. I saw it. Kolvar, you wouldn't believe it. The primordials. The primordials? Yes. I saw everything in there. I finally found it. What I've been looking for all along. Oh my god. Levos. Oh, you idiot. Christ, I wonder how much resurgent energy is just wasted. Snade's going to cut our fucking heads off for this. All of a sudden, they can hear alarms going off in the building because some wild shit just went down and the building just had a massive shockwave go through it. So, they're understandably probably in a lot of trouble, and they can expect Sinead pretty soon. Crap. Levos, tell me what you saw in there. What I've been looking for all along, as I said. I saw them, and I saw the incarnation of... it's hard to explain, but... Listen. I know what needs to happen. Yeah, and I think I know what needs to happen too. I think we're both about to be executed for what just occurred. So, I think it's in our best interest if we, get out of here. Now. Say no more, Kolvar. He lifts up his hand and points it towards the stone that was on the pedestal, and this strange void seems to appear that's packed with these whitish, blackish hues and all this staticky, like, visuals, and it looks, like, awful, and seems like it's some chunk of reality that's been cut away. Right this way, and we'll be out of here. Levos slowly stands up and gently walks his way towards the portal and reaches a hand in. It seems like he should have touched the static at this point, but it's like he just kind of keeps walking towards it without reaching it. Kolvar looks over his shoulder and considers the other possibility of staying here and getting absolutely bodied by the entirety of Vestia City's council. Well, I guess this is as good a start as any. Now then, Levos, I think we have a lot of work to get done. Brilliant discovery, by the way. Why, thank you, Kolvar. As they both step through the portal, it just kind of starts to shut like a slowly blinking eye behind them. And then, they are gone. And this is when Sinead's character probably shows up at the door, since she knows exactly where this whole thing was going on. Sinead, you just felt a large shockwave travel through the whole building, and the alarms are going off. You know who's right down the hall from you and just sought approval for using the resurgent energy in large quantities. What do you want to do?
So right after they disappear, she bursts through the door and sees the stone.
The stone is there, on the kind of needle pedestals.
In the center of the pedestal, and looks at it, very confused.
It gives off a weird hum, but a familiar one to you.
This is not a stone I know.
It kind of has the feeling of, like, holding your hands close to a fire and feeling the warmth of it, but you kind of know if you got a little too close it would burn your fingers. It's got that kind of feel to it, even though you're just touching it. It's a very strange thing.
The professor made a stone. How unexpected.
Give me a quick perception check. And I will also roll a d20. Alright, you passed that check.
Yeah, I think that's going to work.
We just rolled off screen since we don't really need to roll on screen right now. But they just passed the check quite easily. So you quickly look around the room, and immediately on the ground, you notice what seems to be the remnants of a pair of glasses. And you immediately realize it's Levos's glasses, and like some glass had fallen out of them, like one of the lenses just broken. And it seems as if they're in a position where they're kind of like perpendicular to where the chair of the machine was, which kind of indicates he might have been pulled out of it.
Wherever he is not here anymore.
And where
I would
could
say
he-
about 80% chance he's dead.
Most likely. And where could they have gone with nowhere else to escape? They were powerful wizards, but this was kind of wild. Who knows? Maybe one day they'll reappear again. And now, the scene's going to shift to somewhere a bit far away. So, let's just adjust this. We're taken to a scene far away, in what seems to be the dead of winter, very far north in Silnoris. There's a figure hunched and covered in pelts, standing outside what seems to be a dome, surrounded by a forest, with like a large wall of stone right behind it that's about 40 feet high, and just stretches across what seems to be a boundary line. But just like the dome is very odd, it doesn't look like anything else that's in the area. There's just trees here. The figure reaches out and puts his hand in kind of one of the archways and like rubs it a bit. Ah, Joseph, my old king. Are you sleeping in there? He listens for a response, but doesn't hear anything. I'm not sure why I visited. Maybe I still feel guilty. Maybe that's the reason I'm even talking to myself. I'm not even certain if you still understand language deep down inside of you. Why do I keep coming here? All of a sudden, a large shockwave ripples across the land around him, seeming to emanate from behind him towards Vestia and towards the city of Silnoris. He immediately shoots his gaze behind him. What in the hell was that? With a snap of his fingers, he summons about 12 wolves, just regular ones, all with kind of a glowing green hue to their eyes, and gives them a command. All of you, fan out in that direction. Travel for 4 minutes. South. Pardon me. Make an eastward turn. Travel for 2 minutes, then head back to me for 4 minutes. Whichever one of you don't return, I'll know whatever's out there is in that position. The dogs all kind of just form an archway pattern and start jogging off into the snow. Damn it. What could that have been? The figure looks up to the top of the building that he's standing next to, and with a crouch and a really good leap, he uses the jump spell to bring him to the top of the building in one leap, where he has a better view of just barely the tip of Vestia from this distance. And he glances out far over it, and looking at its tower and thinks, Just maybe that it came from there. Could it have been you? That old tiefling from all those years ago. Elric. He looks down, listening to the sounds that just came from inside this dome. Is that you out there? Why? Why have you woken me? Ah. So you are awake down there. Was I just not speaking loud enough for you? You daft old thing. Elric. Please. I want this to end. Yeah. And so do I, Your Highness. Now go back to your hibernation, and I'll return to my job. He jumps down from the roof and begins walking back towards the forest, waiting to intersect with his wolves, knowing that they probably won't have found anything. He's going to have a long day of checking the woods of Silnoris to make sure that nothing occurred here, but it'll be worth it to be absolutely certain that nothing's out of place in these woods.